There comes a point in your personal growth when the problem isn't that you don't know what you want. You know. You can see the bigger possibility, the business that you'd like to build, the role that you're ready to step into, the relationship that you want, the boundaries you need, the life that would feel more authentic, expansive, or satisfying. And yet, something keeps pulling you back toward what's familiar to you. You tell yourself to just be realistic. You question yourself if you're really ready, and you wonder what other people will think. So you convince yourself that what you have already should be enough. So you make that dream just a little smaller. You lower the expectation. You stay inside the boundaries of life you already know how to live. Not necessarily because you lack confidence or ambition or ability. I mean, sometimes you're just trying to fit a bigger future into the beliefs that you outgrew a long time ago. We often think of growth as adding something: more confidence, more discipline, more knowledge, more courage, more skills, more work. But sometimes growth begins with subtraction. It means questioning beliefs that have been quietly defining what you believe is possible. People don't like to do things like that. I'm too old to start something new. I've already invested too much to change direction. Wanting, wanting more makes me ungrateful. I need to know exactly how this is going to work out before I begin. I mean, what if people think I'm getting too big for my britches? That last one, or some version of it, is particularly powerful because many of us, directly or indirectly, were taught that there was something admirable about not wanting too much. Just be grateful. Don't brag. Don't make waves. Be practical. Know your place. Don't get ahead of yourself. Now, those messages may have helped us once upon a time. And they might have helped us feel like we belong, that we fit in. But belonging to an old version of your life can eventually require the abandoning the person you're becoming. Not every belief that you carry was consciously chosen. Some were handed to you by parents and teachers and relationships and cultures and workplaces or your experiences. Others were created by an earlier version of you trying to make sense of the world. And at the time, they might have fit you perfectly. The belief that playing it safe was smart might have protected you. The belief that pleasing people kept relationships strong and intact might have helped you feel like you belonged. The belief that success required constant effort may have helped you achieve. The belief that being practical was more responsible than dreaming may have kept you from taking risks that you weren't ready to take yet. And there's nothing wrong inherently with those beliefs. The question is, do they still fit? Because we rarely stop to ask that. Instead, we keep squeezing ourselves into them, and then we wonder why growth feels so uncomfortable. But maybe growth isn't uncomfortable because the future doesn't fit you. Maybe it's your past that doesn't fit you. We constantly talk about reinvention, your career, your business, your relationships, yourself. But that idea of reinvention can carry an unintended message that who you are right now isn't enough. So, what if growth isn't about becoming an entirely different person, but refining the person who's already there? You keep the wisdom, the experience, the strengths, the lessons, the parts of yourself that do still fit, and you edit what doesn't. And that's very different than starting over because you aren't throwing away who you've been. You're becoming more intentional about what you carry with you in the future. Growth isn't always reinvention. Sometimes it's simply refusing to remain a loyal version of yourself that you've already outgrown. And thinking bigger sometimes requires permission from yourself. We like to believe that our biggest limitations are external: money, time, opportunity, connections, circumstances. And certainly, external limitations are real. But there's another limitation that is much harder to see. And that's that invisible ceiling created by what you have given yourself permission to believe that's possible. You may have permission to succeed, but only to a certain level. To be visible, but not too visible. To earn more, but not that much. To say no, as long as you don't disappoint anybody. To change, as long as everybody understands why. And to dream, as long as the dream still looks reasonable. The moment you begin thinking beyond these boundaries, discomfort appears. And that discomfort is often mistaken for a warning. Oh, maybe I shouldn't do this. Maybe I'm not being realistic. Maybe I'm not ready. But discomfort doesn't always mean stop. Sometimes discomfort means new territory. Thinking bigger sounds exciting until you actually do it, because a bigger vision can challenge your identity. If I become more successful, will my relationships change? If I become more visible, will people judge me? If I get stronger boundaries, will people still like me? If I stop being the person everyone depends on, who am I? If I want something different than what I wanted 10 years ago, does that mean that I've made the wrong choices? These aren't strategy questions. They're emotional ones. And this is what's driving all your behavior. This is where many intelligent, capable people get stuck. They try to resolve an emotional conflict with more logic and planning and research and lists. But sometimes you already have enough information. What you don't have yet is permission to change your mind, to do something different, to want more, to disappoint someone's expectation, to become more visible, to stop explaining yourself, to pursue something before you know exactly how it will turn out, or to think bigger than the person you used to be believed was possible. So, your emotional wardrobe should evolve with you. Imagine, imagine on wearing exactly the same wardrobe you wore 20 years ago. Some things might still fit beautifully, but other things will feel uncomfortable, outdated, restrictive, or completely inappropriate for the life you're living now. You wouldn't stand in front of the mirror and conclude that you were the problem. You'd recognize that your wardrobe needed to evolve. Your emotional wardrobe deserves the same consideration. The beliefs, the expectations, the coping strategies, the definitions of success. The things that you've been wearing should evolve as your life evolves. And you can appreciate what once served you without continuing to wear it. It isn't rejection, it's growth. So ask yourself a different question. Because when people want something bigger, they often begin with, can I do this? Now, that's a reasonable question, but it immediately sends the mind searching for evidence that you're qualified, that you'll succeed and not fail, and that other people are going to approve. And because the future hasn't happened yet, you may never find enough evidence to feel completely certain. So try asking that different question. Who would I be if I gave myself permission to explore this? Do you notice the difference? Because you don't have to commit forever. You don't have to know how you're going to get there or even guarantee the outcome. You're simply giving yourself permission to consider a possibility that your old beliefs might have dismissed. And possibility creates movement. If you feel yourself bumping up against the edges of your current life. Pay attention. There might be something bigger asking for your attention. Instead of immediately changing your circumstances, start by looking inside your emotional closet. Ask yourself, what do I believe about what I'm allowed to want? Hmm. Whose expectations am I still dressing for? What definition of success am I using? And did I choose it? What belief about myself once served me, but now doesn't feel like it fits very well? What would I pursue if I didn't need anybody else to understand? And perhaps the biggest question, what would become possible if I stopped requiring my future to fit my past? Because you may discover that you don't need a completely new life. You just need a different relationship with what's possible. We give ourselves permission to outgrow clothes and homes and jobs and routines and relationships, even entire industries. Yet we can feel strangely guilty about outgrowing our own beliefs. We mistake consistency for integrity, but changing your mind doesn't necessarily mean you were wrong before. Wanting more doesn't mean you're ungrateful for what you have. Choosing differently doesn't invalidate the choices you made then. And becoming more doesn't mean the person that you were wasn't enough. You're simply working with new information, with more experience, with a different perspective. And that's what growth is supposed to do. It changes what you can see. So, thinking bigger doesn't always mean bigger accomplishments, even more money or greater visibility or a more impressive title. Sometimes thinking bigger means imagining a life with more freedom, creativity, peace, authenticity, more meaningful work, more time, better relationships, stronger boundaries. I mean, bigger is yours to define. It can be whatever you want it to be. The important thing is that you define it consciously, intentionally, rather than allowing yesterday's beliefs to define it for you. You don't need to reinvent yourself every time you grow. You don't need to reject who you've been, and you don't need to wait until you feel completely confident about who you're becoming. Keep what fits, tailor what needs adjusting, edit what you've outgrown, restyle what comes next. Because sometimes the biggest thing standing between you and a bigger life is an ability or opportunity or ambition. It's permission. And you don't have to wait for someone else to give it to you. I'm Roberta Fernandez, your mind stylist.